Hello there, anime fans. Welcome to Anime Digression. This is Andrew,
This is Torin.
and I'm doing the intro today because today we'll be doing Komi Can't Communicate, a romance show that I believe Torin will dominate the entire show.
Probably will. As for the next episode after this, though, we will be doing our watch or drop for the winter 2022 season.
It's come out of nowhere already.
Yeah, with the holidays and everything, it rushed up on me way too quick. I have a lot of stuff to still catch up on, but we will be talking about that, what we're watching during the current season and all that. So go ahead and check out all the new shows if you want to see how that's going. Also, getting back into Komi Can't Communicate, as per usual, spoiler alert. There's not much spoiler-wise for this, but yeah, spoiler alert. Watch it first if you want, or watch us ramble.
It is on Netflix in both the Japanese and the English entirety. So
I have a note about that fact too, because I did the rewatch on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I have a note about that. So with that though, Andrew, what was your rating?
I'm not a very good judge of romance. I would say, from a technical standpoint, this is really good. I don't like a lot of the side characters. I'm gonna give it an 8, I think.
Give it an 8, okay, which is still pretty high.
Which is pretty good. Like, the production quality is great, and like I like 2 of the characters, 3 of the characters.
So I actually did have a slogan for this one. Komi Can't Communicate starts with an unbelievable high that leaves you laughing, smiling, and feeling things you didn't expect. It then proceeds to glide down to acceptable. 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this show, but gosh darn, is a lot of that just a ride from the start. So we'll get into that.
I think I kind of had a slogan that was like, it's a great start to a romance that introduces a load of side characters that don't deserve to be there.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, with that aside, for those of you who watched it and need a bit of a refresher or haven't watched it, the synopsis. So Hidehito Tadano is an average, ordinary boy entering high school. His goal is to go through high school without making waves. He fails this immediately when he is sat next to the school Madonna, Shoko Komi. Due to circumstances out of his control, Tadano ends up talking with Komi and finds out she has issues communicating. Tadano changes his goal to help Komi make 100 friends. The two proceed to make friends as they grow closer and enjoy their first year in high school. So, pretty straightforward. That was like episode 5 minutes in, and then summed up everything else.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Either way, let's get into it. And I actually want to start this one immediately with like that feeling of that first episode. Okay. This is probably for me the best first episode of a show I've ever seen.
I can probably agree with that in terms of a modern era. Like I've been really into like fantasy stuff, so I could probably find something that I liked more as a first episode of a fantasy show. But for a modern era kind of thing, I think this is probably the best I've seen.
Yeah, it's so well done where they do foreshadowing almost immediately, which I love. The first thing you see is like, I think just the street or something, and you hear a little girl singing, and the first thing is her singing, and it's, when I'm in first grade, I hope I can make 100 friends. So they set the goal and premise of the entire show, just by this little girl, singing right away. Awesome job. That's really cool. You see her a couple other times too, which is fun. So they immediately start you with that. They go almost immediately into introducing the two main characters then, where you have Tadano talking a bit about, his goal of not making waves and his perspectives, which I find really fascinating how that's changed, because he has that thought process that I think I have it written down here. I don't know if I can actually find it now. Oh, reading the room and not making waves is the way to happiness. Like, this is his initial thought process of
yes, hey, as we learned why later, but
yeah, as we definitely learned why later, which is a fascinating part to his character development. Yes. So you get right into this idea of we understand we think we understand him, where he's like a coward and he just wants to sit back and not have anything happen. And then immediately we get introduced to Komi after that. Within the first 5 minutes of the show, like you just get this huge wealth of information. They do a great job of telling us so much, having us to understand the characters within the first 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I immediately like both characters already within like the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
And it's gorgeous. That first episode is
gorgeous. They throw so much production money into the first episode.
Yeah, there's great little you have great like added textures on top. They have like added text boxes that have, you know, fun comments or responses. When he immediately sees Komi for that first time, it has that gorgeous like that gorgeous background where, you know, it goes into like the crazy colors and all that around him as he's having this internal monologue, which that internal monologue was just hilarious. I had that somewhere too. Where he's like
he starts freaking out over her staring at him.
Well, it's not. Yeah, he turned. Well, not even that one. Like he turns, goes to say good morning, stops part way because he sees how gorgeous she is, and he's like, "Wow, so beautiful! Praise prep school, long live prep school." And it's like,
right.
Oh, such great humor. And I didn't notice that the first time I watched this, that this is a private school. Mm-hmm. It's a private prep school.
They mentioned that only the best of the best could be here, which is it's actually like the most extreme of the most extreme people are here. Yeah. As everybody is like a main character of their own show, except I don't think they deserve any of that.
No,
they're a main character in a different show, maybe.
Yeah, it's a fun premise that to enter into this private school, it's an interview process, and the interview is all that matters. Like your grades don't matter, none of that. Like they say that it's an interview and that's all that matters.
I want to know if Tadano interviewed for this school while he was still Chinofu, or after.
Oh, I would love to know.
It probably comes up at a different season.
I don't. Yeah, because he tries to. I don't know. It is. We'll get more into his character because that would be interesting. Like the way he is trying to be / is now versus what he was before. Yes. So fascinatingly different. But that first episode was just such a high that I felt so much in that episode that most other romances don't even touch. And that's the part that bugged me is that first episode I would almost rate for me like a 9.9. Like it's nearly a perfect episode for me. Mm-hmm. And then just the rest of the show doesn't even come close.
Right.
It's so sad. It's just a slow glide down where it just becomes like an average high school romance.
Right. Yeah.
Which is kind of depressing, but we'll get into a bit of why it kind of glides down as we get into some characters. So let's start diving into some of the main characters right away. So obviously we've been talking about Tadano, Hirohito. And first thing I actually want to talk about with characters is every character's name is a play on their personality.
Yes.
It's just hilarious.
Tadano's translation is that guy.
Well, the thing I saw was like Tadano Hirohito, like when you play with it, it converts to like average or something like that.
I saw it referred to as that guy. Yeah. Like the guy in the background.
Yeah. I love that some of them, like Osana Najimi, like you literally just shove it together and it translates to like childhood friend.
Yes.
It's just like, what the heck?
Look, like episode 6 or something, you get introduced to a lady who really needs some tissues.
Yes, which is great. Like Agari Himehiko's like is stage fright is like what hers translates to. So in essence, all of them are plays on words, which I found hilarious.
Yes, I do appreciate all of the naming schemes.
Yeah, I will say if I was Japanese, maybe I wouldn't appreciate it as much. Because for them, it'd be more of an eye roll thing than like, hey, that's cool.
I think that's part of the point. I think there's a something to be said for name puns in Japan.
True. So yeah, if you are Japanese, let us know. Did you appreciate it or not? But yeah, so let's get into Tadano. So as we talked about, his initial goal was to to read the room and not make waves in high school. And then we find out later that he was Chunibyo or whatever, and
Chuni. Yeah.
Chuni, very nice short. Because but it was weird because he wasn't as far as we could tell, he wasn't the type that we typically think of, where it was like, dark energy or power, or
Who we meet later.
yeah, we do meet a character
Dragon
like that.
Force.
He was more of the almost like pretending to be a tough guy, like I'm better than everyone, tough guy type.
Plan L.
Yeah, everything's a plan or an operation. And then this is why
head real far back.
This is why I find it interesting, because the narrator tells us that he's a coward, but then we find out that he had enough courage to write love, like in chalk on the track field.
Yeah, in giant track field. Well, he's a coward now that he got rejected.
Yeah, I guess that maybe that's the idea, that he became a coward after such a heavy rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what they meant by it. But it kind of fascinates me that he was literally the opposite of what he is, kind of, and then changed. But
yeah,
that was his main goal, though, was to not make waves. And like we said, immediately it got ruined as he became the center of attention in the class, because he sat next to the actual center of attention in the class.
Yes, and they all believe he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, so let's looking at his development. He changed his goal to help Komi make 100 friends after they got along. I feel like his character kind of is developing, but not really. It
is a very slow burn of like, because now he's like Komi's translator after a certain point, and then he's very slowly realizing he might like her as a person, and as a relationship, but at the same time he still doesn't think he deserves her, because everybody else tells him he doesn't deserve her.
Yeah, and he's definitely coming on to the relationship way slower than Komi. Komi fairly quickly is noticing that she at least has feelings. I don't know if she's recognized it entirely as like love, but
I think there was an after credit scene. I don't know if you saw, after they traded those little stuffed keychain dolls.
She freaks out over it.
Yeah, she's like sitting in her bed, kicking her feet, blushing. Her mom comes in and is like, "Oh, I've got to step back from him."
Yeah. All right, I need to not touch this. One of the best characters is her mom. I love her.
Absolutely. That was one of the few
Forever 17.
Sugar.
Oh. Yeah, she's great. Love that concept of.
I honestly like Komi's whole family. Her dad just being like this huge buff dude. Her brother being definitely the girl's fantasy.
Yeah, I want to know more about the brother, because I don't know if he might say like a word or two, but for the most part, I don't think he speaks.
I think he suffers the same problem in the reverse gender as Komi. Is he has a communication disorder? We don't know anything about him other than that scene where all the girls were fawning over him.
Thing is, I don't know if he does entirely. I think from what little we've seen about him, I almost think his if he does have somewhat of a communication disorder, I think it's not the same as Komi's. I think his is more of the like, I don't want to speak versus like I can't speak. Like he keeps to himself thing more than like he can't verbally express himself. Because I think he's supposed to be
a possibility.
I think he's supposed to be like a merger of the dad and the mom, where he has that social capability of like the mom, but he actually almost prefers the silence. We'll find out as it goes forward.
Yeah, hopefully. I would learn more about the rest of the family.
But anyway, so back to Tadano. I actually think the character development that they're going for, though, is obviously a bit of the relationship type thing. But for Tadano, I almost feel like the development, though, is that he knew himself and was comfortable with himself before, got the rejection, became this like, I just want to be average and in essence hide and blend into the background. And I feel like they're slowly bringing it back to where he's learning to accept who he is.
Yes, and gaining more self-confidence in himself.
Yeah, and
ruinous situation.
It does seem like they're making headway towards that with the development of him as he interacts more with other people and is becoming more comfortable being friends with other people and getting to know Komi more. But I feel like it's difficult to point out things that show that he is that. Like if you look at him at the end of the full season.
Yeah, so you from like visuals, like a knowledge standpoint, you can tell he's more confident than the first episode, but
It's
from
it's a little hard to tell. I can't tell if he's just being dragged along or if he's learning and developing as much.
that's a possibility too.
Um,
Najimi does pull him along a lot.
yeah, as she does with everyone. Her character is fascinating. We'll get to that one in a second. The other thing I want to mention with Hirohito is, why did no one really comment on the fact they dressed him up as a maid? It's like a few people comment on it, but in general, it just gets shrugged off.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. Like people make fun of him. Like his sister comes in and like takes his picture, and then
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, brother was actually like that.
Um,
But some of the guys are like, he's actually pretty cute.
Yeah, for the most
weird,
part,
too.
in general, the general public seems to ignore the fact he's dressed up that way, which is kind of weird. But
Yeah,
okay. I mean, it was
I don't even without like any kind of facial hair. If you put me in a dress in high school, I think a lot of people would, or a maid uniform, a lot of people would make some comments.
but that one just I was like, what the heck? Like, good joke. I love it. It's funny because of like his past and stuff.
Right.
Like how out of the box that made him in this situation. But I was just like, why did no one really comment on this? Komi said he was cute. So
yeah, which was also weird.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know what you can say to that. Like you don't want to insult your friend, but at the same time, like
if a girl I was interested in while I was dressed up as a maid called me cute, I'd be worried. Like I wouldn't just be like, "Oh, thanks." Be like,
right?
What?
I was like, I hope this isn't your hobby.
Yeah, don't make me dress up in maid outfits all the time. Maybe this won't work. Let's get into Komi herself, though. So since she's the main focus to the entire thing,
right?
And her development's the one where I find it very hard to track.
Let me interject here because we didn't mention it. Shoko Komi, as the name translates to communication disorder.
Yeah,
basically. So it's very obvious in that sense.
It's what Komi Byoshi or I don't remember. I don't remember the exact words, but yeah,
just where it is. But yes, it's a slant for communication disorder.
So the big thing with Komi, obviously, is the fact that she has a communication disorder, and I do find it interesting where she apparently at some point had no issue talking with people, because when he wakes up from getting knocked out, he hears her say, why can't I talk in front of people anymore? But we also see that in second grade,
Najima tried to talk to her and totally failed.
So it's like, at what point could she talk to people? Like, if in second grade we know she had this issue.
I don't know about you, but I don't remember a lot of things from first grade.
I remember some stuff. I remember stuff back into kindergarten. The average person starts forming memories. I think it's in like when you're around 3 to 4, somewhere in there.
I'm not saying I don't remember like
anything. Yeah,
like anything. I just don't remember a lot from specifically first grade. I remember stuff from kindergarten. And I remember stuff from second grade, but
it's just
I don't know what did I do in first grade.
So I find it weird that she says that, but at the same time, we know that for a very long time, she's had communication issues. I wonder if they're ever going to expand upon that, and maybe we'll find out that something caused it. But at the same time, the dad literally is her, like that same issue. So you'd think that she always was that way, or maybe the issue is just when she was younger, like she could communicate with her family, and she's assuming that as like that ability.
Yeah.
So getting into her though, so she has issues communicating with people. Oddly enough, it seems like her issue is verbal only. Like she writes notes and can communicate easily through writing notes. So for the most part, it seems like her issue is verbal. She has a hard time speaking, and she does show personality issues too.
Yes.
issues with things that are, you know, issues with embarrassment, issues with things that are heavy topics type thing.
And also like physically interacting with people, like hiding
Yeah,
around a corner and as opposed to talking to people or holding up notes.
yeah. But overall, she seems to be able to write and talk to people. Now, part of that could be the development. Maybe it is that part of Tadano helping her out is why she's doing at least the writing fine,
Hmm.
because we don't see her use that at all otherwise.
Yes.
So she has communications issues. Now, I do find it very interesting. Part of what made the first episode so great was Tadano gets knocked out. He wakes up, hears her say that. She meows because she has her little toy
Yeah,
that she's
because
like
it's
talking.
cute.
She meows. She sprints to take off when he, in wise high school manner says, "I didn't hear anything." Obviously saying that he heard something in the process.
Yeah, the standard, like, I didn't see your panties.
Yeah. So she sprints off. Now he stops her by saying, like, I think the exact thing he says, I think I had it written down, but he says, wow, I thought I had this written down, but he in essence says, "Hey, you have an issue talking."
Yeah, do you have issue talking with people?
Yeah, he's like, I'm not, I think
Something
he
like that.
says, "I'm not certain, but do you have an issue talking or communicating?"
Yeah, he said it really politely.
And that stops her in her tracks.
I just wrote Tadano calls it.
Yeah. So she stops and she tries to like talk, and he, mentions that she could like write on the whiteboard because she did when she did the, like they did the introductions, she wrote her name on the
Mhm.
whiteboard, so, or blackboard.
Yes.
So he's like, "Hey, write it on the blackboard." She writes on the blackboard. Then he converses with her, and they kind of go back and forth. And then she just gushes like, all the feelings she's apparently had about her circumstance for the last, like, her whole life. So she
Right.
just starts going ham, like writing on the board about like, what do people think of me, blah blah blah. Lays out like all her emotion.
Yes. And then he's standing there in shock, and then she's like, "Oh, I said too much."
Yeah, he's like, "Sorry, just ignore this, whatever," and she goes to run off again. So it's like this giant gush of emotion that she has, just like flying through the board, just talking about all these issues in her mind and everything. And I think that's part of what made that first episode great is you feel the pain that she's in and
Mhm.
like her circumstance you feel for her. And then obviously like nothing like that really happens the rest of the show. Like little hints here and there.
Right. Yeah, you never really see an outpouring of an emotion past the first episode.
Yeah, so you don't have any of that heaviness that like they kind of gave you in that first episode, and then the release of that heaviness where you feel all this tension of her like gushing out all these emotions, and then they turn around and she goes to leave. She's like, "Oh, this, I said too much. Ignore all this," and she goes to leave, and Tadano just like writes on the blackboard like, "Hey, how about the weather today?" type thing. Like he steps forward and makes a point to converse with her.
Right.
Um, and then they go through the montage of them like just going ham. In essence, I'm guessing this is just they spent
In a
an
very
entire
pretty
period.
scene.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. It seemed like a lot of writing to be done in a single period, but
I don't know. I mean,
I don't
periods
know.
were what? I guess depends your school, but I think most of them were an hour long, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, an
I
hour
don't know
of
about you.
conversation.
I don't write very fast on a chalkboard,
Well, we also
especially if
have
I watch somebody else do it.
we also have to remember this is they're writing in Japanese, and
Yeah.
Japanese, I think in general, is more confined,
Compact. Yeah.
compacted. So it'd probably be a little bit easier to converse. And I mean, it is a gorgeous scene, like you said, for like animation of
Mhm.
how they show the characters and they show the writing and like it filling up the board. And you could tell that the first like 3 episodes had way more effort animation wise than the rest of the series. Like they just were blatantly way more gorgeous and there was
Yeah,
way
they
more
started
happening.
running out of money. Like, oh wait, we still have to finish this season.
I don't even know if it's a money issue. Part of me wonders if it was that they put like because most anime they start the animation and then they're animating as the show is airing a lot of the time. Uh,
Except this came out on Netflix, and Netflix is the one funding it. So what actually possibly happened is Netflix said, put all of the effort into the first couple episodes, because we know if you watch the first 3 episodes of a show on Netflix, you're probably going to continue watching.
yeah, They could
So
have.
you just progressively lose quality as you go through because Netflix knows, hey, this guy watched 6 episodes. He's probably going to finish the season.
And also part of it could be it devolved into literally a traditional like we're in high school, so we're just going to be doing stupid stuff and
Yeah,
less
yeah, we're
into
just doing goofy things for the rest of the show.
yeah, they put less effort into the emotion and the character and all that. And then they ran out of stuff to do that was fancy because they stopped doing fancy plot development type stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that was a whole great scene. So as far as her development goes, you see her go from not being able to communicate at all, and somehow Tadano's the only person in her entire life who knows that she has a communication disorder.
Well, her
It's my one
family,
nitpick in the entire thing. I might as well just say it
apparently
right
her
now.
family knows, but she doesn't. They don't seem to do anything about it.
Well, I think she means outside her family because her family obviously knows because the dad's the same way. So I think her it's
Yeah,
the
yeah, her
idea is
family might have it normalized because her dad's the same way.
yeah, I think the idea is that it's outside her family. No one has noticed.
Hmm.
My one nitpick, I call BS. Like you're telling me she's never come across an adult who knows that communication disorders are a thing and like has called out the fact she has one.
Right.
But okay,
Her
okay.
grandmother seemed to know she has a problem, but she's not like close enough.
I almost think that the grandma knows, but because I think that's why she asked the question of like, have you made friends? Because I think she knows that since she has a communication disorder, she can't reach out and make friends easily.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the grandma was like, "Yeah, you made friends. Like, I'm so proud of you," type thing, or "I'm so glad for you." Um, like I said, that was my only nitpick. I might as well get out of the way now. Like, come on, someone else would have noticed. You didn't have to literally say, "Oh, you're the only one."
Yeah. But he's the hero of the show, so he has to
Yeah,
figure it out.
yeah. That is a running gag through the whole thing, which I do love. The fact that he's the only he's always the person who is grounded, like in the entire group, where
Right.
everyone will freak out over something that like Komi did or whatever, and he's the one in the corner like, what?
Yeah. The whole class is, we have to retitle class president into something else. What do we do?
Uh, yeah, it's stuff like that. And I'm trying to
And
remember a
then
really good example of one where like everyone freaks out about something, and he's just like, "What the heck is your problem?" I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that was
the end when they do karaoke.
okay. Yeah,
She says nothing the whole thing, and everybody's like, "Yeah, she did great."
yeah. Because everyone's like, "Oh, I can see it in my mind, and it's so wonderful, and I can hear it," and it's like she's literally standing there like, "I can't do this." Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's just like, "What the? Okay." That's a pretty decent example. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So she goes from pretty much that to at the end. Uh, Actually, weirdly, at the end, she in essence doesn't talk, but close to the end, she actually manages to tell him that he looks good in her. Ooh, wow, your webcam went super blurry.
Oh,
For those who
I
are,
was leaning over
yeah,
for the. It probably was doing the
yeah.
screen thing.
For those of you who are watching on YouTube, this is why webcams have issues. So focusing, yeah. But anyway, so towards the end, she manages to tell Tadano that he looks good in his kimono, like when they're at the festival.
Mhm.
So it took her,
The
an
whole
hour or whatever.
Yeah.
But she managed to actually say it. So it's like, okay, she went from in essence not being able to say anything and like stuttering over even like trying to say the first part of his name, like the first syllable, to actually managing to say something.
Mhm.
So for her, it does feel like there's a decent development arc, but I do almost feel like in the show they backburnered the development and plot in general.
I think the author wanted to introduce a different bunch of different characters rather than move the plot forward. But
Yeah,
there was a whole semester's worth of stuff because they went on summer break at some point.
yeah. I don't know. I do hope that since I don't know if they've officially announced there's another season, but at the end of the
Yeah, they
thing
did.
they say there's another season.
Yeah.
Because
I
she
I
holds up
think
the end.
Netflix
Yeah.
Netflix was like, "Here's more money. It did really well."
I don't even know if it got that far. I almost feel like they probably committed almost right away to 2 seasons.
I mean, they committed to 3 seasons of The Witcher before The Witcher even aired.
Yeah, so I almost think I think they knew from probably how good the source material was, and how popular source material was, that it would be good. So they probably
Probably,
already
I think
did.
it's one of the top ones in all of like anime or manga, like serialization, like
Yeah.
top 10 at least.
So I think they just immediately committed to it. So I'm really hoping that that sadly was the premise of the first one, where it is more of just like a character introduction, and then they'll get really into it in like a second season, because
Hmm.
there is some development. You see her show that she likes him through like freaking out over the little charm, and trying to like
Yes.
tell him that he looks nice, and like
Yes.
you see these interactions back and forth of that a romance is going to be there, but
She does move
progress is
forward with her stuff, but it's very slow. I think the author wanted enough material. He wanted to just be doing this for ages and ages. It
yeah.
seems like.
I mean, it's the first year of high school. I don't. We know that they got at least halfway through the season, or like their first year at high school.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know for sure if we know where it ends. I would almost assume that maybe this was an entire year, which means the second season might be like the
I
very
don't.
end of their first year into the second year.
Yeah, and but also like with this type of show, you don't even have to do things in order, or you can
True.
just say, "Oh, we're back at we're still in school this time, but we previously had a let out to summer."
Yeah. I we'll see where they go with it, but I will say she does show development, but it does, like I said, feel like it was a back burner anyway this season, where like they just gave us a few hints of like, hey, she can converse a little bit more. She has at
Yes.
this point, I think you could almost say 10 friends roughly, um, somewhere in that range. It depends how you feel about that group that like tags together. Like
Oh
one of them's
yeah,
her
the group with the
friend.
ninja.
Yeah. It's like one of them's for sure her friend, and they agree to be friends. And then there's like the other four that they show up with them for events and stuff, but
Yeah,
really probably aren't friends, more of an associate type thing.
yeah, they got roped along with Yamai. I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Yeah.
The stalker girl.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But her character, I do appreciate that standpoint of this theme, where they're taking this classic idea of high school, but they're associating that main character who is super gorgeous, everyone immediately loves, obsesses over, freaks out over, has a communication disorder. And I feel like they're doing a good job showing the issues of a communication disorder. This,
Mm.
though, I've always been a pretty good person at talking. I used to do speech contests and stuff in high school. I don't have issues with stage fright or that kind of thing. So I'd love to hear from people who maybe have like social anxieties or communication problems. How do you think they did? Like, did they do an okay job? Is that how you feel a lot of the time? Um, I would
Well, I
like to
think
know.
stage fright is a little different. Like I have stage fright, but I don't have a communication disorder.
Well, the thing is, you have a Gari is a person with stage fright. So, like, they display that side of
Yeah,
things
yeah.
through a Gari.
In high school, definitely, if you had to put me up, I apparently blanked out while doing a presentation and stood up there for 5 minutes saying nothing.
Oh, nice.
And before the teacher brought me down, I was like, "Wait, I haven't finished." I'm like, "You haven't said anything for 5 minutes." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, yeah. No, I was the kind
It
of
got
guy.
better once I took a communications class in college, but
Yeah, I was the guy who was like, "Hey, you guys have to give a 4 minute book report," and I'd be like 10 minutes into it. All right, I'm done.
yeah.
So now it didn't help that that exact example. I decided to do the stupid thing of having a month and reading Les
Of
Miserables,
course.
which is technically 3 books. So literally, it took me 10 minutes to do the most
Broadest
generalized
possible.
plot like description ever. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, no stupidity. So that's why I'm curious. Like Agari, who has that idea of stage fright, then has the weird thing of like, I forget what the word is, but she wants to be Komi's dog, and that's a whole thing of she's like a
So,
sub.
I I liked her before she was like, "But I'll be your dog, though."
Yeah, yeah. It's that. the whole dog thing was they all right, yeah. So I think we've talked. I think enough in general about Komi. Let's just start talking about random characters in general. I think one of the issues they ran into is as it went, it was weird. Like as it went, they started trying to go heavy into comedy, and then like at the last minute, they almost pulled it back because you like in order you see Najimi, who for the most part's a pretty standard character. She has a weird. She's quirky and stuff, but she's fairly grounded actually. She is very outspoken, really good at communicating. They always make the lovely jokes about the fact that she's super good at communicating, where it's like, oh, I'm sitting here, can I have lunch with you guys? Like, I'm going to drag both of you into having lunch with me, and then I'm going to send you off to get me something, and I've got 3 more lunch dates.
Right, yeah.
Lunch is maybe half an hour. She's trying to do 4 lunch dates per lunch period.
She they tell her Komi's desire to make 100 friends, and she just reacts like, that's all?
Yeah.
And then underneath, like, excess of 100 or 1,000,000 friends or something like that.
Yeah, she shows up to the festival with an army of people.
Yeah, I invited all of my other friends to the festival.
And then when they went to the pool during summer break, and then after, like at the very end of summer break, she mentioned that she went to the pool 51 times. So it's like, you went to the pool over a summer break 51 times. I don't know how long summer break is in Japan. I think maybe it's a month.
It's multiple times a day.
Yeah, because I think if I remember,
how did you manage this? Did you go at like 6 a.m.?
Yeah, I think it's like a month in Japan because their summer breaks way shorter than over here because they get like more time break in between.
Yeah, they get like a winter break that's longer.
We shove everything in literally 2 months. I think theirs is roughly a month. So yeah, that's 30 days to go 51 times. Definitely went multiple times in a day. So overall, the general joke though is that Najimi is, we don't know what gender, potentially gender fluid, bounces back and forth between being a guy or a girl. You don't know.
Yeah, just whatever is the most funny or useful at the time. Like, I can't go out with you. I'm a guy. Or
but otherwise,
I'm gonna go into the girls' changing room.
Yeah, but otherwise is a just highly sociable person. So pretty straightforward. Then you get into Agari, who's a person with stage fright, whatever. But yeah, then they start leaning into the comedy with like, I'm not good enough to be Komi's friend, but I'll be her dog. And they portray Agari as a dog, like with tail all the time and whatever. It's like, you probably didn't have to lean into that much. Still not bad. Anime, funny joke. You can kind of overlook it.
Yeah.
Then the next person they introduced you to is Yadano. All right, this person who just wants to compete with Komi, otherwise is a normal character.
She's just a side joke character.
Yeah. Not a big deal. She wants to beat Komi. I do find it amusing how many times she has denial and she like says, "Oh, we tied for a competition."
Right. Her whole thing is like, "I'll take what I can get," basically.
What was because they straight up tie on the first competition, which is the whole like physical exam or whatever. Because she mentions like she lost if you went by standards of like you're supposed to be shorter and thinner or something.
Yeah. She says something about like, but guys sometimes like girls with meat on their bones or something like that, basically.
Oh yeah, because she's tall, she's slightly taller, and no, she's taller when sitting. And then I forget what the other one was. So it was like, okay, they aren't big things, so yeah, you could call a tie. But then towards the end they do the other contest I can't think of where she just straight up loses. Like across the board loses. But she manages she manages to get like one victory at the very end or something, or one tie, and she's like, "Oh, it's all the tie." You got stomped like 5-1 or something, and like she just calls it a tie.
Yeah, whatever.
Otherwise, she's
normal.
Just
there as a joke character.
Yeah, so she's fairly normal. Then out of nowhere, you get Yamai, and this is where it just leans heavy into comedy.
I don't like Yamai. I don't like stalker characters.
I think the issue's not so much that she's a stalker character as much as she is heavy stalker character. This is not like, oh, I'm spying on you, following you, stalker character.
It's yandere.
Yeah, to the max. Like
Yes.
take that classic character times 3, and that's what she is.
I'm gonna take. She tripped and fell in the cement. I'm gonna kill the cement with his file.
Yeah, we're gonna file it down so it doesn't happen again or whatever. So I mean, the worst case is the first thing she does, where she kidnaps Tadano and like straight up is just gonna kill him,
Mhm.
because he's not worthy of being next to her. And then I think the other thing is not that she's stalker; it's that they purposely have her as stalker pervert. And I think that's what kind of also takes it over the top. Is it's not, like I want to date you or I'm obsessed with you. It's like I'm going to be also perverted about everything you do. Like, oh, I walk up, you look cute in this outfit, I pass out right away, or like just from shock or whatever.
She passed out when Komi was wearing the maid outfit, so she could film it like from a downward angle.
That one they did make the joke that like, yeah, she's filming
Yeah.
underneath. That one they did do that, but pretty much any time she showed up, she passed out. Like if she was wearing anything other than her normal school outfit. So they leaned so heavy into her character. She's probably there's some characters I'm like, she's probably the one I just straight up wish wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like I think
and she shows up so often.
She's one of the main group.
Yeah.
Like she's not a side character. She's one of the main group.
If she had been arrested and out of the show, I would have been totally fine.
Yeah, they could have done the first episode, maybe had her like where she kidnaps Tadano or whatever, maybe have her in another episode or two, and then like, yeah, make a joke about her, going too far or something, getting arrested. Because they could have done that joke where they did the one where she was hiding like behind the phone pole watching Komi, and the little girl from the very start of the show walks by and is like, oh, look, a stalker or a creep or whatever. Like they could have done that joke and then like had her end up getting arrested or whatever for being a stalker or a creep.
Yeah,
that'd have been fine. And then maybe pop her up way later down the road. I didn't really care. That's where they leaned almost too far. After that, we meet Nakanaka. Who's the Chun. Really don't have an issue. I do love the joke they make though, where like you see this character, it's like, oh, classic Chun. Has the eye patch, like thinks dark energy or whatever, and then they make the point that the eye patch is
the reincarnation of.
But then they comment that the eye patch is because she has pink eye.
Yeah, she actually has pink eye.
So it's like, I love that inside joke where it's like she's not just wearing an eye patch because she's a Chun. It's like, no, she has pink eye. It's like, I like it. I appreciate it.
And then her story doesn't hold up to any level of scrutiny. It's like, please tell me more about this thing. I'm like,
no one's ever tried to like lean into it, so
yeah. I don't know how to react to this.
They show both sides where like they in essence ignore her, so she like keeps trying to go deeper to like get him to pay attention, and then the other side, where like Komi actually leans into it, and she's like, But I do appreciate that they, with her character, do show her break character. Like when she gets, she feels like, oh, Komi's like actually being a friend right now or something. Like they'll show her break character.
Yeah, and you see her more chill out when she gets invited to the room and they're like all playing video games. And then you find out that obviously Najimi and her were friends and they like are fighting while playing Smash Bros.
I also love the different references they make. Because you had Smash Bros, which I think I had it written down what they called that.
I probably do as well. They had Super Swash Swamp Pants
Swamp Bros. Yeah, it was like Swamp Bros or whatever. So yeah, then they had the other one too. They had 2 references that were like super obvious. Oh no, 3. You had like Subway. So Sabo, like Sabo or something, way for like Subway. And then they had Starbucks was, I didn't write that one down, but they did the same thing with Starbucks where it was like a super obvious reference. It was great. I will say the writer does have a way with like words and like names.
Puns.
And puns.
Just puns. It's all puns.
Well, some of them are puns. I don't know. I don't know Japanese, so I don't know if like Subway is like a pun on top of just like. I feel like the Starbucks one and the Subway one was literally how close can I get to saying their name, like phonetically, without actually saying their name. It's like you usually have the joke of the classic anime names like McDonald's for McDonald's, or like
Yeah.
you usually have the classic one. I feel like this person literally just went, I'm gonna phonetically try to get as close as possible without saying it.
Hmm.
I appreciate it. So that her character I did like. I didn't really have any issue with her character. This was kind of almost, they did heavy go into comedy with her, but it was very much almost on the point. Like this type of character exists in a lot of different animes. It was very much in line with that. Showed a bit of development, or vulnerability that I appreciated. From here, I almost feel like it came back a bit. You had Anaka, who was the country bumpkin. It was very much just a little side story. It was interesting. But then you got Natsune, who I was just like, why does
Which
this
one was Natsune?
50 degrees hot or what, like
Oh, yeah,
temperature
yeah,
chick,
yeah.
who she's
Temperature
rated, she rated like
check.
every interaction with like how
Mhm.
like aggressive it was, or
I thought it was funny. I put her in the same vote as the competition girl, not just because they're both like competing sort of things, but they're like side joke characters.
yeah. And it really was only that episode, I think. It was just during, so it was very much a side, but it did drop into that. Did they almost give too much airtime to her? I don't know.
I mean, she was only really focused on that one episode, so
Yeah. So I mean, she kind of also, I guess, was, I don't know. It's just weird because they almost went deep with Yumai, like heavy into comedy. Nakanaka was kind of heavy into comedy, but kind of made sense. Then from there, a lot of the characters were very, um, like One Mine is the most standard character ever, and she actually shows up a decent amount in those episodes.
the One-chan girl.
Yeah, where she like acts like a older sister.
I liked her because she was more normal than everyone else.
That's what I'm getting at, though. Is she is the most normal person ever, and shows up in, like the last two episodes.
I solely think she's there to point out to Komi that like her own feelings,
I,
Komi's feelings, and like I'm gonna support you.
but yeah, she's the most simpler character, and then you get a Tori, who just I really
I
like.
like it. I really like it too.
Tori's great. She's
Naruto.
she's she's literally a normal girl. It's just her thing is that she's super slow to respond. Like she's so easygoing that she's like slow to respond.
Yes.
But otherwise, she's completely normal, and
Yeah.
that's why it's.
Albus, they threw her away at one point. She's just in the trash.
I don't know. Did they? They actually, I don't think, say why she was in the trash
No,
can.
they're just like, there she is in the trash.
It's like I don't know
Why
if
is
they.
she in there? And then next scene, she's not in the trash. So who knows?
So I don't know if they threw her away or if she like got
She
in it
probably
for
got
some reason.
knocked. She probably got knocked in and like was totally cool with everything. So she's just like, I'll slowly get out of here, or
Yeah,
somebody will help me eventually.
possibly. I do love the fact though that she she's the first, I think the only character who, like Tadano, notices everything
Mm-hmm.
because they she asked her like, why did you ask me to come out and help you to like go shopping for the class stuff for like the festival? And her response just is, I saw you like interacting with your group of friends or whatever, and it looked fun. Like she saw
Yeah.
them for what they were.
Yeah.
And that made Komi happy and whatever.
She's also one of the few people who are like straight up with Comey of saying like, I kind of want to be friends with you.
Yeah, I think she, like, I mean, like I said, yeah, I think she is the only one who saw it for what it is, like Tadano, and yeah, straight up was like, yeah, I'd like to be friends with you. Because I
Mhm.
think the only other person who was forward about wanting to be friends was Yamai, but like,
Yamai
she's,
has reasons.
wow, that's the thing is her character's so out there and leans into the comedy aspect of that so hard that it doesn't hit that same way, yeah. Where
Yeah.
it's like, I guess ulterior motive thing. It's like we know that she has an ulterior motive versus Otori, where it's just like, you guys look like a lot of fun. I want to be part of your friend group type thing.
Yeah.
Be friends with you. No, I really love their character. I think that kind of goes to show the issue with the show I had, where you start on such a high of the first episode, and then back into that gorgeous animation, the very start of the second episode. Oh my gosh, that recap of the first episode at the start of the second one is one of the most gorgeous pieces of animation ever.
I remember you telling me this. I think you texted me directly like, I just watched the second episode. It's so good.
That for those who haven't watched it, this is so great, where it's a shot of the school. So, the bottom half is like the facade of the school, and then obviously you'd have like the sky as the top half. But they take that shot, and then the top half becomes a literal like comic book montage that scrolls up of each like little panel in the comic book. And these aren't like squares, they're all weird, odd shapes.
They're
each little
manga panel shape.
Yeah. Each one is, different moments from the first episode. And they just like have it scrolling as they talk about like, this is the situation that happened in the first episode. So gorgeous the way they do that. They do it one other time, not with the school, but that like comic book style animation. I don't remember when they do it, but they do it one other time. And that goes back to like they put so much effort into the first few episodes of like gorgeous shots like this. I have to mention this while I'm thinking about it real quick. Yay, digressions. Did you notice in the first episode the cell phone camera reference?
No. I remember the thing about Tadano saying, "Oh, you finally got a self."
Well,
Are we talking about the?
No, this is.
I think that's
it's a visual. It's a visual reference on screen of a cell phone camera. Okay. I did not get this the first time I watched it. I had to quickly pause it because it is like 1 second. So in the first episode, they do a zoom in on Komi, like her like brushing her hair aside or something. And it's a very close shot. Like you don't even have her full head in it.
Yeah.
On the left side of the screen, they pop in a little like button control for like a cell phone camera. Where it's got like the red record button and it's like, pressed like saying record. Like it's
I remember this.
It literally just like pops in when they do that close-up shot for like a second and then goes away. It's like, oh, that just once again, you could tell they put that effort into like the aesthetics and the references and like the animation in the first few episodes. They never do anything like that ever again. That's like the only time. Just this little punch in on her face with the little thing pops in to like say like it's like someone's recording her with a camera.
I would like to meet I would like to see the episode where they meet the photographer guy who's just been stalking Komi this whole time, and it's him doing all of these shots.
That actually would be a great inside joke. I would love that. Yeah, it turns out like all like the anime and like all these shots and everything is a person. That would be a good reference. So like what I was getting at though is you get all that effort at the start, and then the middle of the season almost leans too hard into comedy with like awkwardness with Yamai, Agari to an extent where it gets heavy into her dog thing, a little bit into Naka to start, and then it almost pulls back into a just very plain vanilla like high school slice of life, somewhat of a romance. I don't even know if I'd call the first season a romance really in the grand scheme of things. Like it's such an undertone.
Finally coming around to my opinion, because when we were texting, you were like, "It is a romance for sure," and I was like, "I'm not really seeing it."
Well, this was also like the first few episodes because it does like when you're watching the first 6-7 episodes, the thing that makes it go from being a romance to I think a setup for a romance or just like like you can kind of tell it might be a romance type thing. The change from that is when you get to, say, episode 10. It's like in a romance, by the time you get to like episode 10, 11, 12, around episode 10 is usually when a show has the moment is lost type thing. Like this is normally in a romance where like the two end up fighting, or like a character comes in and tries to steal one of them from the other person, or it's like you have that all is lost moment where you're not certain that the romance is going to develop. You get to that point in the show and just nothing. Like there's nothing. Like there's no moment is lost. There's no like they're getting really close to where you start to wonder or question. There's literally nothing.
Right.
You get to the end of the season and it's like Komi knows that she kind of likes him. He is recognizing something might be there, and that's it. Like there's no development really.
Yeah. There's a lot of long running sort of thing feeling to it. So
Yeah, it definitely is a show that's probably looking 3-4 seasons. Like so we'll see.
yeah.
At least 2 seasons for sure. They could like rush into it, but I'd say since they haven't even gotten into the second year of high school, this writer is probably definitely looking for the long run. So like at least do all 3 years of high school. You don't see enough romances go outside of high school, so I actually would. This to me is almost a perfect show to try to go that way. Whether
Yeah.
you go into
Yeah,
college
I don't imagine they'd be going into college, but they just introduced a load more characters. We all brought the even crazier people to this college.
Yeah, for those who do like romances and stuff, Clannad is still one of my favorite shows, and that's one of the things I appreciated about the Clannad story is that you had a life outside of school. So you don't see that too often, where like it starts inside of a school and then goes to like outside of school, and you can see people like try to actually become a family or whatever. So, like I said, I almost feel like this could be a decent show to go that far. I doubt it will.
I looked it up. There's 300 and something chapters in the translated section.
Oh, nice. So a few just I think the talked about the general show enough. So I'm gonna get into a little about just notes I have. One of them is, oh man, I am glad rooftop confessions were not a thing when I was in school. Is this a thing? Like a real thing?
I have no idea.
Let me know, people, because that would terrify me.
I'm also afraid of heights. And you're like, let's put you on a roof and then also have to confess to somebody.
In front of the entire school. Like,
oh, you're talking about the do it in front of the whole school thing. I was talking about just like
both.
one-on-one.
But
I mean, yeah, do it in front of the whole school would be nightmare too.
Yeah, it's like if you're afraid of heights, you're screwed already. And on top of that, you're literally laying yourself to bear emotionally in front of the whole school. And these people are responding.
One of those people in the crowd was the one you were talking about. And that first guy was like, sorry, I'm not interested.
Yeah. And then Komi doesn't say anything.
Might as well just jump off this roof right now.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would terrify me. Like, standing on a roof in front of your entire school and confessing to someone. I don't know if this is actually a thing. Like, let me know. Is this an actual thing? I would hate it. It's terrifying. Oh boy. So the comedy in the show is amazing. We've already covered some of it. There are some great little like comedy drops that I wanted to point out that I liked kind of as hit picks. One of them was the whole Tadano's like hiding behind a chair when Komi like goes up to get phone numbers. And Najimi's like, Tadano, help me. I don't know what she's trying to say to me. And literally Tadano's like just holding up a chair and hiding behind it.
Yeah. He seems to hide in the worst possible.
It's like, what the? Obviously that doesn't matter. Like a school chair, you're not really hiding behind that, but okay. It was a nice little bit. Komi trying to pull the whole, like the number you have dialed is not in service.
Yeah.
Like when she accidentally calls. But she stumbles on the word service and like it just immediately
she bites her tongue and then
it's just great because Tadano knows like literally that ploy didn't go anywhere. She like tries to say that
she's the one that called him. So.
Well, no, he technically called back.
Right.
Yeah, she called him. She hung up like right away. He calls back and then she tries to like pull that joke, but then they just immediately go into talking. So it's like, okay, that's just a fun little side jab. Tadano apparently developing a hair fetish. That's from the slide. Like that was a nifty little joke too. Something I just, you wonder like what's his response going to be about the fact her hair is just like all over his face going down the water slide. And you'd think it would be that thing of like him obsessing over her, but no, then they make the joke like the way his face responds, and then like later he's like sitting there with the little thought bubble, like thinking about that. And it's like apparently the hair itself is like what he found appeasing. Not that it was her. I don't know.
I don't get it.
I mean, it was a fun little joke.
Sure.
The dead ancestors thing was a good one, where they're like, "Hey, did you have a good conversation with your ancestors or whatever?" And she's like, "Yes."
And the ancestors are like, what?
Yeah, they have the little like random symbol bubble thing with the like thud sound that comes up. It's like boom. Nope.
Yeah.
Ancestors are like, what? Because before it's just dots. Like they do the little thought bubble, and it's just like dots of her apparently like talking to the ancestors. And yeah, that's just a good little jab. We already. Oh, the rope lottery lady was great too. That was a nice little joke. It's like, haha, this game is rigged, so that way I have a good chance of winning. If you put any thought into it, it gets more difficult. Komi's just like, boop. I win the PS5.
Yeah. I wonder what it was like in the original, because obviously the PS5 is way newer than whatever.
Like how old's the
I don't know
source
how old
material?
the show. I don't know. Maybe it was a PS3. I don't know how old the show.
Yeah, I doubt it's that old. It'd probably be like a PS4 because I mean the PS4 was out for a long time. I don't know because I bought a PS3 in college. PS4 I think came out in like 2013, 2014, something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a PS4. Yeah, no, that was just a nice little fun comedy bit as well. The comedy bits were great in this. I think they were good frequency. For the most part, they were fairly contained and just amusing. It was just certain characters and their bits went a little far. Talked about, yeah, for hit picks, the animation just in general gorgeous. The times where they went lo-fi and it was hilarious. Like when I was rewatching it, my roommate like sat down and watched a few episodes with me, and he even commented on like when they were in the photo booth, like Komi is lo-fi, like she has no mouth, like it's a very like straight faced, and obviously everyone around her is like fully animated and looks gorgeous, and just it was a good.
She's very very big eyes and like nothing else.
Yeah, it was a good back and forth between like artistically doing lo-fi at certain points and artistically just going full out at certain points. I do wish, as we stated already, that they went a little deeper like they did early on to some of the later ones, but overall pretty good. I don't know if you had some hit picks.
I didn't write anything specific down. It was just mostly enjoyable, except for some of the characters.
Yeah, I have a few more hit picks to mention. The title cards and end cards, I love them all. So early on, you have some title cards where they play like the little video game 8-bit music, and it has like the title card, and they have like the little 8-bit character. They like never do that later in the show. Once again, something that the first few episodes, like I think the first episode, maybe into the second episode, and then they just stop doing it. And they just go to the classic, like, little title at the top that says like, this little short's title is this or whatever.
Right.
That's another.
Yeah, I think maybe the first bit was done by like a different studio or something.
Or just once again is that they put more effort into it, more money, and then it just wasn't worth it anymore. Or they decided. I mean, it's also possible that if they'd have done it the whole way through, we would have got tired of it and it had gotten old. So maybe that was the thing where they're like, hey, if we did these title cards, some of these episodes are 4 shorts in essence, 5 shorts. If that title card pops up 5 times in an episode, it might get old or annoying. So maybe they went that way. Maybe it's like, hey, this is cool, give you the feel of the show, but we're going to stop doing it because it'll get old.
Maybe, yeah.
But the
I started skimming through some of the early chapters of the manga, and you don't even. It's like 4 chapters in to get to the point where Tadano gives her the eraser back.
Oh wow, yeah. So yeah, that was.
It's very short, but it's only like a few pages per thing. But
and then the end card scenes. And when I'm mentioning those, I'm mainly talking about in the first episode where they have her sitting there and she like holds up the end sign. So it's like them directing her like as a stage person doing that. And then at the very end of the show where it's the same thing where they're like telling her like, hey, she holds up the end sign. And they're like, hey, no, the other one. And it's like, the to be continued.
Yeah, to be continued. That's where I assumed that they were coming out with another season for it.
Yeah, I think that was them in essence announced it. I just don't know if they've like officially announced it, but whatever. I already mentioned my nitpick. The only last thing I had is like a hit pick was just the Komi cat personification that like kind of had.
Oh yeah, that's real cute. Just in general,
it's cute, and I think they did a good job balancing it, where it didn't feel like it was too much of a bit, where like she's constantly getting the cat ears or like acting like a cat. But it was a good way of taking the reaction. Like typically it was her being my brain can't think of what her reaction was that she usually did it with. Excited, I guess. It's like and not necessarily I guess excited like, ooh, I can't wait for something, but like when something happened and she like was excited back towards it. Usually it was that where the cat ears would pop up or whatever.
The same. I mean, if you've ever observed a cat, it's the same kind of reaction of like a cat like gonna pounce on something.
Yeah. So that was the thing is
I will digress for a second.
Yeah.
It's confirmed a new season will show up in April of this year.
April, so that would be spring season.
Yeah, that's real fast turnaround.
Yeah, which makes you bet that they were probably already working on it. So that means they were probably ahead on the first season then. Usually studios try to give themselves about 6 months to work on a show. So that means that they might have had the entire first season done when it was airing, or at least close to it. Yeah. So as far as the show goes though, I highly recommend it to people to watch. I still think one of the top animes I've seen.
I think bare minimum you should watch the first episode because it's great.
Yeah.
If you watch the rest of the season, it's because you wanted to watch it.
Yeah, the first episode can almost be its own standalone thing. It's just so good. And that's nice thing is, as we mentioned, it is pretty back burner on a romance. So even if you're not a romance person, you'll still love it. It's just a nice high school like slice of life at that point. Not much of a romance. I'm super excited for season 2. I hope it holds up, and I hope it doesn't play into the bad trope for romances, which is that if at the end of the first season a romance hasn't fully developed yet, all too often in the second season they feel that they need to keep the audience happy, so they like rush the romance. Then like they almost have them like have their kiss too soon, or have like somewhat of a budding romance too soon, because they're trying to like make it to the audience doesn't feel like they're being pulled along. So I really hope the show avoids that. Does it the second season be like, oh yeah, now they're in a romance right away. Keep it contained. But I don't think I have anything else to cover. So
no, we covered a lot, and as I said, this episode was brought to you by Torin rambling about a show, and me agreeing with most of what he has to say.
So keep an eye out, everyone, on like social media and all that for what we're gonna do after the Watch or Drop episode. We'll probably mention it in the Watch or
Drop is next. It snuck up on us. I think I have to watch the 3rd episode of a show already.
Yeah, well, luckily some of the 3rd episodes are still coming out. So
we got some time, but
we just dated the recording.
Yeah,
we were a little lazy to get this one out in time. It's going to be out in time, but get it recorded early. Let us know, answer some of the questions that we put in this episode, or let us know how we're doing or what you want us to cover, because we will be covering stuff that is older coming up as the new season's airing. Email us at animedigression@gmail.com or tweet at us at animedigression. Let us know, give us feedback. If you're listening to this on a podcasting service, leave a review for us. We'd appreciate it. With that aside, thank you all so much, and can't wait to see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.